Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Gabe up at Merrimack College. Welcome, Coach.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for being here.
No,
Uh,
thank you for doing all the stuff. Thanks.
yeah, no, I'm excited. I think I don't know at this point, Coach. Are you like the longest tenured head coach in soccer at this point, or is there still a couple guys ahead of you?
Now, in women's soccer, I'm not sure about men's soccer, but in women's soccer, yeah, I am the longest.
Wow.
It was, yeah, this past season was actually the record, and which eventually, if somebody is foolish enough to last this long, then they'll break that record too. So it's never felt like a job. It always felt, fun. And part of it, I can tell you, part of the reason I could have lasted this long is that for the first 40 years or so, I was just a part-time coach because I was a teacher as well. And, you know, this was more like a hobby and I never felt the pressure. It was just the team wanting to win rather than me trying to keep a job. If things didn't go well, I could still pay the rent, if I got fired. So it's a different feel the team gets as a as I feel bad for some coaches that are worried about having winning seasons and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's well, things have certainly changed over the last few years in the soccer world. So I guess the first question I have for you is have you've been there so long and you probably are somewhat in a routine in terms of how you recruit and building the team. Although with all these changes, I mean that routine gets has to change a little bit. So this being January, kind of where are you at in terms of you know are you still looking for any 26s? Are you looking at the portal or like where does things stand with your team right now?
Well, no, we're 26s, we're done. So thus I'm not looking at the portal right now because we are done and with a new roster limits, it also things have changed big time for us where it used to be bring in as many people as you can. And then, you know, Merrimack is not a large school. And so, thus, a lot of the sports, not just soccer, having a lot of numbers, helped with the tuitions and things like that. But then we opted in. So now, slowly I have to, by the end of next year, it's got to be at 28. So, so we went from like 36 kids. And of course, with 36 kids, even with 28 kids, it's hard to get everybody in. And we are certainly a program that uses subs, average about 20 kids a game that get in, even so they can feel like they're contributing, even if it's 10 minutes. But it's hard. It's just, very difficult to get 35 kids into a game.
Yeah.
Uh, y- you know, uh, there's just no way. And 28 will be a little easier, which in the old days, that was roughly between 26 and 28 was a number I always had before they started pushing for me to have, more and more people. The only thing that becomes difficult, we've always been very good about allowing walk-ons, and trying out because we wanted numbers. And, once in a while, you get a walk-on who winds up being a stud, and that just because, they might be in a smaller club, where nobody pays attention, those type of things. So we've been fortunate. One of my captains for next year was actually a walk-on that came in, 2 years ago.
Awesome. Awesome.
So
Well, when you're, doing your kind of standard recruiting stuff, where are the places you like to go? What tournaments, what events? Were you in my backyard this past weekend for Easino, Florida, or?
yes, actually, one of my associates, Paul, who's been with me 25 years now. He was there, so he was doing a lot of the scouting, and he's very thorough. So you know, he pretty much sent me the stuff. I wind up doing the contacts. So I basically sent a lot of the emails out and to see, how truly interested people are. You go on Scout, in general, we look at kids who contact us rather than going to watch a game and see who looks great. You know, so you feel that if they've contacted us first, at least they know where Merrimack is and they have an idea. Although, some kids send mass emails out to all of the D1 coaches and see how it goes, but it's a little easier. When I started, obviously, kids that contacted me, there was a real true interest because you had to type the letter, put it in an envelope, and put it in the mail, and that's where you got the stuff. And then we would send a questionnaire that they would have to fill out and put it in the mail and send it back. So it was, you know, very different, very different. It's a lot easier now. You can make instead of a fishing rod, you have a net to see what you get. And, so it's been, simpler in that respect. But I feel where it hasn't changed, it winds up still being the personal touch. How do you, when you talk to the kids and the families, how does that feel for them? And that's what I look. I don't want to quote unquote buy a kid. I want a kid that comes to Merrimack because she likes the school and everything fits besides the soccer. Um, so that has never changed. The one thing that it's most amazing to me is that I've had three kids whose moms played for me.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so yeah, so that's really kind of cool. One graduated a couple of years ago. There's one on the team now, and there's one on the team coming next year. So that is always, I feel very proud of that part.
Yeah.
That's longevity, obviously, but
Well,
at
what
least the
also
parents don't mind.
I was gonna say that says a lot about you that the parents said, "Hey, I had such a good experience that I want my kid to play there too." Because my daughter's a senior in high school, right now, and getting ready to go off and play. And it's as
It's
as a for,
hard.
as a former coach, and I wanted to make sure she ends up in a good situation. So yeah, so that says a lot. But yeah,
It's no, it's fun. I like coaching. I don't feel like it's a job still, even though now it is because I've stopped teaching, so I just coach now. But it's when it becomes a a quote unquote job, that might be time to call it quits. When I stop getting nervous before games, those things.
yeah. Well, so you talk about, making sure players, you want to recruit people who want to be there, obviously, but kind of what else makes up that hierarchy of things you're looking for in a player, both on and off the field?
Well, obviously on the field, you look at the talent. Just as overall skill, athleticism, those type of things, which I'm sure are similar to most coaches. And once you identify, a kid that you might want soccer wise, then, you say, hey, come and visit, see how you like the school. And I always have them meet some of the girls on the team because they are going to be the people you're going to spend more time with than me. You're better off if you don't like your teammates, even if you like the coach, you don't want to go there. And you could put up with a jerk coach if you want to, as long as your teammates are good. So it's easier. So that's very important in that respect. And obviously, a lot of the families, the financial aid situation, that's probably for most families the number one reason. Although there's no parent that's going to send a kid to a school they don't like, for a $500 difference or something. So, in general, the financial aids are similar for the better players that similar schools are looking at. So then it becomes really the personal part that makes a decision for many of these kids.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. Like we said, you've got a few decades there, both as a teacher and coach. So, I guess what are the things about the school that have kept you there? What are some awesome things that you want folks to know about the school? Maybe some things we wouldn't even know by going through the website.
Yeah, no, it is funny. I mean, I kind of fell into the program because in my old job, I used to be a programmer, believe it or not, now having trouble with Zoom. But so before I was a teacher, I was a programmer. And so we're sitting in the bullpen with some my colleagues, and one of the women he goes, "Hey, look, there's an ad for a coaching opening in Merrimack College." And I'm thinking, well, where the hell is Merrimack College? And I didn't know it was a small school. This is back in 1984. They were starting the program and they needed somebody to start the program. I had coached 4 years at Wheaton College and had started the program there. But, I was asked to resign. A new AD came in who wanted to bring in her own people, which is not uncommon. And, you know, um, so I was, just sitting around and missing coaching. And so I came and I visited, and they offered me the job because it was August and they were starting in 2 weeks, and I said, okay. So my first recruiting class was really putting some posters on the dorms,
Hmm,
and see who comes out. And, I would say half of those kids never played before. So it was true teaching soccer as much as coaching soccer. And I enjoyed it. And we were successful enough. And, it continued that way. You know, I always looked forward. To me, it was almost therapeutic just getting out of my job and coming over and coaching and hanging out with the kids, looking forward to practice. I approached my coaching the same way I approached when I was a teacher. Uh, you know, that's what you do. And, you know, uh, there is, there is a difference. When I started coaching, I was in my 20s and my players were like sisters. Now they're more like, my grandchildren, but it's it's still okay. It's still, I want the parents to feel good about sending their daughters here. So Merrimack has become, my school. Both my daughter went here and one of my twin boys went here. The other one went somewhere else because we didn't offer the major, which is the number one reason to pick a school. Not a lot of soccer kids will be professionals. So it does happen once in a while, but less in women than in men even actually.
for sure, for sure. Well, let's talk about kind of the transition between high school and college. Like that can be a real tough thing for some kids, really balancing the demands of being a D1 athlete as well as a student. So what kind of support systems are there at Merrimack to help the students be successful on and off the field?
It is funny because Merrimack is not a large school. The one thing that I think it's outstanding for us is it's a Division III feel with Division I athletics. So you are not a number out of about 50,000 people there. So that feel is there, and there's a lot of support for the athletes. There's tutoring, there's advising. So fortunately for us in women's soccer, I don't know if it's because I was a teacher first. It's always emphasizing academics, and that's really big. This past semester, we had a 3.7 GPA as a team. So, they are very proud of that fact that, in general, we're one of the top academic programs at the college and in our conference. So that's made it easier, as far as not worrying about if the kids are studying. But that's for whatever reason, most of the kids that contact me are good students anyway. So I worry less. I've never had a kid in 46 years be academically ineligible. It's some kids would leave because of playing time, understandably so, or things like that. But in reality, it's never been a school thing. The support has always been there.
Yeah, that's I think generally speaking, of almost 200 women's college soccer coaches I've talked to, I think it's generally you're recruiting high academic folks who and girls soccer tends to be one of the highest ranked teams in every
In
athletic
every
department.
school, yes. I think a lot of the girls have found are driven both athletically
Yeah,
but also academically. So
for
it's
sure.
been easy. It's been easy. Um, Even sometimes where you would have kids who are not great students, they wind up becoming great students because of, the peer pressure,
Yeah,
the good
yeah,
peer pressure,
right.
to achieve. I don't want to be the only kid below a 3.0,
There you go.
that kind of stuff. So that helps.
For
And
sure.
I think when you help a kid get in who's a marginal admissions, they always respond well because they're thankful, they're grateful about the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's rewind back to October, that conference season. Walk me through what's a typical week look like for the players in terms of winter classes, meals, practices, games, all that stuff.
Yeah, I would assume it's similar to most places, but I tell the kids, I know some schools practice in the mornings. I think sometimes 8 a.m. it's an ungodly time to be playing soccer. So we go in the afternoon. So I tell the kids to take most of their classes in the morning if possible, and we'll practice around 3 or 4 o'clock, depending. We'll alternate with the men, so we see who gets the earlier slot and who wants to be here later. And so in season, most of the games for the MAC are Wednesday, Saturdays, which is a little different than most D1 schools who play Thursday, Sunday. So our non-conference schedule, all those games are Thursday, Sunday, our first 6 games. And then we go to Wednesday, Saturday. The advantage I can tell you of Wednesday, Saturday is that Sunday becomes your day off,
Hmm.
which is a true day off. Whereas when we were in the NEC, Monday was a day off, which is not really a day off because you have class and things. And I had to go to work besides soccer. So this works a little better, especially once a conference starts. But a general, you'll have your classes in the morning and practice in the afternoon, and then, you know, go to dinner and study. It's a pretty straight setup in that respect. So, you know, we will incorporate, strength and conditioning work, not so much in the fall as we're so busy with real practices, but a little more in the off season. And and my players know school comes first. And I tell the recruits and I tell the parents that as well. So there are no excuses uh, for academic problems. They know when the schedule is, and it gets a little harder for science majors, engineering majors, which there's always a few of those on the team. And so they might have a lab in the evening, so they might need to leave practice 15 minutes early, and that's the way it goes. They wouldn't be here. The way I look at it, nursing especially, it's, a big major for us. And not a lot of schools in D1 let you be a nursing major. We do. And they accommodate us well, where they actually have most of the harder stuff is in the spring. And as opposed to, say, lacrosse, where the harder stuff is in the fall.
Right.
So they've been great with us, I would say.
Good. That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team. You told us a little bit about your associate that was down here at the ECNL event in Lakewood Ranch, but talk to me more about the rest of the staff. Who all's there? What roles do they play? Maybe what other support staff are in the athletic department that help out with the team?
It's been, we get along real well, but we also argue. So, so Paul and I, sometimes it's like we're an old married couple, as he's my associate, we discuss everything and don't agree with everything. And again, after he was, um, he is the husband of one of my former players and former assistant. So when she got
Mhm.
pregnant and was going to stop coaching with me, he goes, you know, my husband coaches, so he became by default, and and we've been together ever since 2020, 2001, basically. So I always know it's 25. This will be 26 years. So he will be, you know, again, he does more and more every year, and especially during the setting up the practices and things like that. And so he truly is an associate, almost like a co-head coach. And and then besides him, Rich Perry, he's been a volunteer coach for us, and he comes when he can, and he's it's like an advisor as much as a coach with the players. Bella Mendoza is a new assistant coach. She is younger. She's only been out of college for a couple of years. She's a goalkeeper. She's terrific, intense, brings that to the table for the kids. I feel it's important to have a female on staff in that respect, and especially young, someone that understands Instagram and all those things. And so she's been terrific. She's done some scouting herself. I mean, I'm starting to learn how strict or how easy she is, with how she uh,
Evaluates.
evaluates the
Yeah.
kids. Yeah. So that's great. So we've gone together a few times, and then, besides that, our trainer, head trainer, Erin Burke is her name. She is just, the girls just absolutely love her. She takes care of us, basically, and yeah, she wants to get him out there if there's an injury, but, she will worry a lot about, especially when you deal with concussions and things like that. And then we have Brett Richardson has been our strength and conditioning coach. He played soccer in college, so he understands that part of the conditioning work. So it's been really good. So it's not all about just bulking up. It's been just a great staff overall. Um, makes your job easier in reality. Um, so yeah, no, the school, the support has been great. Especially since even when we were in D2, our hockey was in D1. So we got a lot of the good stuff because they were getting good stuff. And then 6 years ago now, we've been D1. It's a little different. You get more kids emailing you, not necessarily we still had some great players in D2, but it does change.
For sure, for sure. Well, Coach, I appreciate all the insights. I know we could go on for hours
Well,
here,
yeah,
but
like I said, we can talk forever. So I know you probably have other meetings coming up. So
but I'm gonna leave you with one last question, Coach. With all your years of experience, I think you'll be poised to answer this well for folks. But if you had a daughter that was going through this process right now, or anybody that's going through this process right now, what's kind of the one cardinal piece of advice that you would give them as they do their recruiting?
school first. You gotta like the school first because you could get injured. And what do you want to do if you break your leg, broken leg test? Would you be there if you A, were hurt, or B, you weren't an athlete? That's how you start looking at schools. The soccer, of course, if you're a good player, is going to fit no matter where you choose.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Well, Coach, it's been a pleasure.
Thank
Wish,
you very much. I'm glad we got it worked out with the videos here.
yep,
And
it's all good.
anything else you ever need from me. And thank you again so much for doing this. I think it's great for the kids.
No, I appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you, Coach. Best of luck.
Have a good day. Bye bye.